Well, welcome into the PHNX Cardinals Podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. I can't contain myself. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock. No, we are not camped outside the Cardinals facility in Tempe, but God bless the people who are, Bo Brock. Sean Payton is in Arizona. He's been here all day. He's hanging out with Michael Bidwill. And things are looking promising.
They are. The stars seem to be aligning. I don't want to get people's hopes up and then just rip their heart just directly out of their chest cavity if Sean Payton doesn't happen. But look, the stars are aligning. The teams are falling out of the picture as far as the coaching carousel. We had Frank Reich hired today, who interviewed with the Arizona Cardinals last week. He was actually Monty Austinford's first head coaching interview as he started his tenure as Arizona Cardinals GM. And then Dan Quinn, who we've talked about pretty heavily the last 2 days, he informed the Dallas Cowboys, or at least the Dallas Cowboys, according to Tom Pelissero, is informing everybody that Dan Quinn is not leaving the organization. He, quote, has unfinished business to do. LOL. Okay, good luck with that. Haven't been to a conference championship in 3 decades. Have fun with that, Dan Quinn. Arizona Cardinals sights are set, it seems like, Johnny Venerable, on Sean Payton, who has been at the facility for the bulk of the day, was just seen leaving with Michael Bidwill. Look at this.
Wait a minute. Put in the LeVar.
Look at the bumper of the car here. I mean, are they absolutely just what is going on here? What kind of spy shit is going on right now where that car bumper's in the way? Somebody's crouched down and getting this photograph. You've got Sean Payton. He's got a satchel of some sort, a suitcase. He's in business formal attire. He's got Michael Bidwill, and they look like they are on their way either to the airport or to continue this marathon of an interview.
I'm going to get emotional. Things are getting emotional here. I may get emotional. Just fair warning for everybody on this show. Do not let him get to the airport. Phoenix Mesa, Sky Harbor, whatever you want to do, put the kibosh on all the outgoing planes to Los Angeles and New Orleans. Make him stay here. I do not think that Michael is driving him to the airport. I think Michael, if you had to ask me, is driving him to his house. You feel like you get a car service to take Sean Payton to the airport. You get Sean Payton to come to your home where Michael Bidwill lives. This is the most encouraging piece of information that we've had in 6 months with this franchise. With all due respect to the hiring of Monty Austinford, the Cardinals, and we talked about it yesterday from our fabulous spot at Four Peaks in Tempe, Michael Bidwill, secret genius. He's waited everybody out. The dominoes began to fall. We got word today, and I think we have the tweet. The Denver Broncos basically had a meeting with Sean Payton, and he did not like their ownership group. There were too many cooks in the kitchen. Look at this. Mark Maskey. I love you, Mark. Mark was banging the drum last week. It's the Broncos. It's the Broncos. They're the front runner. They're going to get Sean Payton. Well, Mark. The Panthers are no longer an option for Sean Payton. They hired Frank Reich. There's an issue with Payton's interview with the Broncos. Payton likes the idea of coaching Russell Wilson and having that defense, but, quote, fears a potential power struggle with the members of the ownership group with the Denver Broncos. I don't think, Bo Brock, that's going to be a problem, walking basically hand in hand with Michael Bidwill out of the facility today. There's your power infrastructure right there, baby.
Yeah, all the stability. We heard about ownership. Walmart, they know how to set up some superstores. They know how to set up, grocery shopping. They know how to set up buying affordable clothing for your family. But do they know the NFL? They are new to this game. They've got deep pockets, but as far as stability, we have zero clue. And whatever's going on, and according to Maskey, there was something that left Sean Payton unnerved and him available to fall right into the lap of Michael Bidwill. And I completely agree. I think he couldn't have played this any better. He was cool. He was confident, and he trusted his game plan. Exactly what you lined out yesterday. He got his GM. He checked that box off of a football guy through and through, somebody that's respected around this league, that's been in the works as a GM, an up-and-coming GM. He let Monty pick his guy as an AGM, an assistant GM, and Dave Sears, very well-respected, 20-plus years of experience. And then he got those guys ready for this moment today where they've been meeting for the last several hours at the facility in Tempe talking football. And football people love talking to other football guys, don't they? And especially intelligent guys, having deep conversations about what the future could look like for this Arizona Cardinals organization. A tip
Marley in the
go ahead.
Yes, tip of the cap. Marley in the chat, y'all ready to watch Home Team? You bet your sweet ass we are. We're going to queue up Netflix, and I'm going to watch that shit on repeat if they get Sean Payton. And listen, this has been the most emotional roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster, right? Highs and lows throughout this coaching carousel. And I don't want to hear anybody today say Dan Quinn used the Cardinals as leverage. The Cardinals let Dan Quinn leave yesterday. It was their second interview with Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn was going to go interview with that nut job Jim Irsay Saturday night, and that was it for Dan Quinn. And if the Cardinals wanted Dan Quinn, they would have offered Dan Quinn yesterday. They would have canceled the Sean Payton interview. Was Dan Quinn still in the mix? Maybe, but we don't know that definitively. But it's like we talked about on yesterday's show. If we would have gotten notification that the Payton interview had been canceled, then you would have been like, Sean Payton's out. Obviously, Dan Quinn's going to be their next head coach. I look at the news today. If you're hoping, obviously, like we all are, for Sean Payton to be the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, the Dan Quinn news is good news. I know a lot of people messaged us and said, man, this sucks. He was a contender. I just don't think they allow him to leave without making him an offer if he's their top guy and they've met with him twice already. And who knows, outside of just, inconsistencies, they could have met more than that. Right. So to me, it just felt like they met with Dan. They probably like, yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to go through our process. We want to talk to Sean first. And they're talking to Sean. And Dan's probably like, I don't want the Colts job. I don't know if I'm going to get the Cardinal job. They haven't offered me anything. Maybe I don't have a good feeling. Maybe my agent told me, let's go back and talk to Dallas. But you see that domino fall because I know people in the chat were like, oh, suck it, Johnny. Dan Quinn didn't get the job. I was out rooting for Dan Quinn yesterday, trying to spin it positively for a lot of the people. All right, you yourself didn't want Dan Quinn. He got his wish.
Right.
I think we both would be content with Brian Flores. We like Brian Flores.
I dropped down to my knees. I prayed to the football gods. I said, please, no mediocre head coach Dan Quinn, who was not a great coach after he had a mass exodus after the 28-3 debacle in the Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. Shanahan left. All those coaches left with Shanahan basically to San Francisco after that. Here, Josina Anderson tweeted this out today before the Quinn news that he was staying in Dallas, that she spoke with George Edwards, and he said he found out yesterday and he was shocked. And when Dan Quinn spoke upon returning from his Cardinals interview, DQ expressed confusion. Now, Edwards was part of the several coaches that were let go by the Cowboys today, but the confusion from Dan Quinn, I'm wondering if it was like, what the hell? I just had a second interview with this team. I spent several hours with them. It flew me out. We had this face-to-face meeting, and they didn't offer me the gig. As you know, he's one of the heavily sought after coordinators this coaching carousel. So I wonder if that sheds some light on it. He's confused in the sense that the Cardinals were just like, all right, well, we still got some work to do here. We'll be in contact.
I can't even stop smiling because I don't give two shits.
You look like Michael Bidwill when I asked him if he was going to talk to Sean Payton a couple weeks ago after they fired Cliff Kingsbury.
I cannot imagine getting in that car. Like, again, they're sharing a car together. They've been together all day. It's the last line of defense before him going back to Fox. He is not getting any of these other jobs. There are no other jobs. We've avoided the landfill, the landmines. There's no LA job available. The Cowboys job didn't open up, right? Things blew up in their face in Denver. Houston had a horrific Zoom session. Carolina's hired a coach after meeting with him for a couple hours. The last spot is here in Arizona, and he's been here all day, and he's still with Michael Bidwill. It just, to me, it's just, it has to be their guy. Like with all due respect to Brian Flores, and again, Sean could do soul searching and opt to go back to TV. But man, it's always been the Cardinals. It's always been the NFC, the conference he dominated. It's always been Kyler Murray with his comparisons to Drew Brees and size and stature and that kind of thing. Undersized. It's always been this offense. It's always been playing it for a franchise and coaching a franchise that's never won a Super Bowl, right? And elevating a franchise. This is the team, along with the Cowboys and the LA Chargers, that he's been synced to and had interest in since October, those initial reports in October. So why we went through this entire process, are people surprised now that Michael Bidwill and Sean Payton are wheeling and dealing and dining together in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley tonight. This should have been what happened at the beginning.
Right.
But for whatever reason, and again, hopefully it's all telegraphed by Mr. B, Michael Bidwill opted to get his football operations correct first, to get football people in front of Sean that he would respect, so he wouldn't have to look at Sean as the end-all be-all savior. Yes, Sean, come in here, do your thing, have immense input. But I got guys who can take some weight off of you. And I got guys from cultures that have, most recently Detroit, Dave Sears, had success drafting, and then Monty Ossenford, part of the New England, Tennessee runs of success. That's a huge, huge factor that nobody wants to talk about in the national media. Everybody's saying, well, you should have just let Sean come here and run everything. I think Michael Bidwill is a signed, sealed, delivered Sean Payton away from, just totally changing the perception of the Bidwill name.
Yeah, all 400 people, thank you for tuning in, of course, to PHNX Cardinals. Subscribe to PHNX Sports, and, of course, hit that like button if you want Sean Payton to be the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And it's been very impressive just how Bidwill has operated, because it hasn't been like this. This is why I think from an outsider's perspective, or even people who've been following this team, they're shocked by how this has materialized and become something that is very real at this point, because of the 4 other vacancies basically falling out of the running as you described. But if this was still the old Cardinals that was just as recent as 3 weeks ago, where Steve Keim was still employed and hadn't put in his resignation yet officially, and Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach. If this was, they just fired Cliff Kingsbury and they're going to sit and have a meeting with Keim and Bidwill, they probably get an early meeting and they're probably out of the running. But the way that Michael Bidwill has operated this and laid it out and had a pretty solid plan, and also casting that wide net, as we like to joke about, right? And talking to some coaches, talking to some coordinators, casting that wide net, fishing for
fish is back, baby.
But Michael Bidwill might be on the precipice of catching the biggest tuna available in Sean Payton.
We're so close to just being able to keep all the receipts and grave dance over everybody that shit on the possibility of this man coming to this franchise. I may have to just spend 18 to 24 hours away from my family in a hotel to be on Twitter and grave dance over the people that said that Sean Payton would not consider the Arizona Cardinals. No way he goes to Arizona.
They weren't paying attention. They weren't. They had their preconceived notions. They weren't paying attention to what Payton's and it's turning out to be true what his criteria was, right? Quarterback, ownership, which is completely done about face, right? It was because ownership was held down heavily by who he trusted in the front office and to make the decisions for the Arizona Cardinals. And once he cut that dead weight, it's been completely different story as far as Arizona Cardinals ownership. For the last couple of weeks, as far as the trajectory is stable as far as that department goes for the Cardinals. And then, getting Sean Payton in most good coaches who call themselves good coaches, or if they think they have a shred of ability, would look at Kyler Murray and say, yeah, I can work with this. I can work with a 2-time Pro Bowler, offensive rookie there, Heisman Trophy winner, a guy who was drafted in 2 major sports. I can work with that. I think I can turn that around after having a couple bad weeks in 1 season of his career. So, yeah, if you were just looking at from the outsider's perspective, all this dysfunction, and I can't deny that there was dysfunction just running rampant through this organization. But the about face that Michael Bidwill and the Cardinals have had, it's put them in a prime position to get the top candidate on the head coaching market.
You don't think Sean Payton maybe made a call Lincoln Riley? And give me your honest opinion of Kyler Murray, the person, the player. I saw Kyler Murray face-to-face at Oklahoma, face-to-face with the Arizona Cardinals before the injury, before this year. He was a superstar player. He's a player that can win you games single-handedly. So for people to say, and they want to have it both ways this year, Bo, it's like, that's on Cliff Kingsbury, but also Kyler Murray, you're terrible. Well, which is it? Is the offense bad because of Cliff Kingsbury and the scheme and the personnel, or is it all Kyler Murray and the study clause nonsense? To me, that's people having an agenda against the Arizona Cardinals. You can't tell me that Sean Payton doesn't look at this as a blank canvas, draft picks, a new GM, a new president or vice president, assistant GM of college scouting, player personnel, whatever Dave Sears' title is, 2 new people in the building, right? with all due respect to the prior regime, they have no influence now. And so Sean Payton can come in and work with this clean slate of this 53-man roster and gut it the way he wants to. And again, we've talked about it. You can have 2.5 years of Kyler Murray and then decide to pivot if you're Sean Payton. There can be a contingency plan. I would imagine, though, if he were to sign on, it's in every intent to get Kyler Murray back to where he was and then some. Break through that glass ceiling that Cliff Kingsbury could never do with K1. I want to remind everybody, subscribe to PHNX Sports on YouTube. We do this every single day, 4 p.m. myself, Bo Brock live at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. We continue with this breaking news, Bo. Dan Quinn out, Frank Reich out. So do you think it's as easy as DraftKings, our friends at DraftKings, made it seem to believe, that right now it's Brian Flores? You can't even get plus money on Brian Flores. And then right behind him at plus 150, Sean Payton. Will one of those two men be the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals?
Now, don't correct me if I'm wrong. Sean Payton started the day about plus 1,000.
1,000, yes.
Yeah, and he was plus 750 yesterday, and then it was back down to plus 750. In the most recent, if you check out your DraftKings Sportsbook app, you will see on DK that he's plus 150 behind Brian Flores at minus money. It's unreal what's going on with this. They were probably having discussions about, what Payton's plan would be for this organization. Like blank canvas, I completely agree with you. Working with some really knowledgeable football minds, respected guys, but also it's not an empty cupboard, because you have the potential of Kyler Murray coming back in mid-October from the ACL tear. It's not out of the question that he could come back earlier. You look at the defensive side of the football, you've got some really intriguing players there. Is Brian Flores out of the question if he doesn't get the head coaching job? Could he be a candidate potentially for a defensive coordinator? There's so many things in play here and so many good options for the Arizona Cardinals as people kind of look around the coaching carousel and the candidates, and it's dwindling. But the Arizona Cardinals are still in a prime position for the two people that they've tabbed or identified as their best bet. So just wanted to take you through. Kyle Odegaard, formerly of AZCardinals.com, now CompareBet, has had the best insight onto what's been going
friend
on.
Of the show.
So Sean, absolutely. Everybody's a friend of the show, but legitimately Kyle is a friend of the show. He's on it. He joined us 2 weeks ago as we talked about this. Could this be a realistic option for the Arizona Cardinals? Yeah. And we laid out exactly what we kind of went through, is why aren't the Cardinals being seriously considered? And Kyle said, as it stood then, that they should be the front runners, right? And here they are again, a couple of weeks later, pretty much in the spot, that the driver's seat for Sean Payton. Here's his day so far. So he gets there early this morning, the facility in Tempe, about 9:00. Then he said he spent some time with owner Michael Bidwill. The rest of the interview panel that the Arizona Cardinals have made up here, chief people officer, whatever position that is.
Would love that job.
CPO. I'm a people person, right? Sean Mayo. He's the guy from Office Space. What would you say you do here?
I'm the director of people control, quality control, but also people. I control people.
That's right. Senior Vice President of Media Relations, Mark Dalton, basically heads up the Cardinals media and communications there, and Senior Vice President of Marketing, Lisa Manning. So he meets all of those people, everybody that he would be working with on a day-to-day basis in this interview panel that the Cardinals had made up here. Had lunch with Bidwill. GM Monty Ossenfort, which is so important, as Kyle points out, is because we need to know what they're going to view the control here, the power hierarchy of the Arizona Cardinals. Is it going to be Sean Payton and then Monty Ossenfort reports to Payton, or does Payton report to Monty Ossenfort? They could have preliminary discussions over lunch about that. So they'd had that. And then we just got it, Cameron Cox, the picture of Michael Bidwill and Sean Payton cruising out. Look at that. Yeah, from behind a Chevy Malibu bumper. There you got Sean Payton and Michael Bidwill strolling off to either go to Steak 44, the Bidwill residence, or the airport. We don't know, but you got to say, hey, this has been a very productive day, regardless if this is the end of the day or if it continues.
Again, emotional. Looking at that is the only word that can come to mind. I want to get to some of these super chats. You guys are fantastic. All 534 of you picking spread, saying Peyton Carter keeping Hop is the dream for you two. I would say Sean Payton is the dream. And then whatever else comes after that, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, D-Hop gone, D-Hop stays. You're playing with house money if you get Sean Payton. Rich Edwards, love this comment here, but thank you, Pickin' Spreads, for that $1.99 super chat. This comes from Rich. Shout out from Wales, Cardiff, Wales. Thank you so much, Rich. $8.99 super chat. How exciting is Payton's record of drafting and developing late round guys if he's hired here? Jimmy Graham, ring a bell. Michael Thomas was a second round pick.
Right.
Alvin Kamara went in the third round. I think, again, first world problems if we're here sweating out where the Cardinals are going to have to give up compensation. I think that's a conversation maybe for another day where we're like, oh, man, I really didn't want to give up pick 35. Oh, wait, this guy has a .630 winning percentage. He won a Super Bowl. Go check out his last 5 to 6 seasons in New Orleans. Ass kicker, right? You want somebody to go toe-to-toe with Sean McVay, who you can't beat, and Kyle Shanahan, who's in the NFC title game again, and Pete Carroll, who swept you with Geno Smith. You got to go to bat with a Super Bowl winning head coach. It's the only non-Super Bowl attendee head coach in the NFC West is the vacancy that the Cardinals have. And so, again, I know we want to pearl clutch over draft picks, and I'm guilty as ever. I want as many as we can, especially in the top 100. But, man, oh, man, give up what you need to. Outside of the third overall pick, give up what you need to, Bo.
Yeah, and as far as that leverage, Saints fans are realizing that it's gone, right?
Oh, I mean, it's great.
I think their tears. If the Arizona Cardinals organization was smart, they didn't have a conversation about what it's going to cost is between them and Sean Payton. I don't think it actually involves Payton. It's going to be a conversation that's going to go between Monty Ossenfort and Mickey Loomis, is the Saints GM, and they'll figure something out. And Monty can just be like, hey, nobody else was in the conversation for this. Sean Payton's not coming back. He has an opportunity. He had, I'm sure, any opportunity to come back and say, hey, I want to be the Saints head coach again. And you'll send Dennis Allen back to his defensive coordinator position and at the drop of a hat. And there's a precedent for this. It's not the John Gruden who's currently coaching and under contract with the team. He happens to be under contract. You guys want something in return. It's not going to be a first round pick. Let's actually talk. Let's talk compensation here, and let's stop talking about first round picks because he's not coming back. Nobody else is vying for his services. Let's talk realistic here. Do you want a second? You want a third? Is it future picks? What's it going to be?
Pick 35. Goodbye. Here's basically a first round pick this year. You don't have a first, New Orleans. It would be the highest pick that you have, I believe. A top 35 pick. Go fuck yourself. Good luck to you, New Orleans. Stop screwing around thinking that you're going to hold hostage your Super Bowl winning head coach. With all due respect, if Sean Payton comes to the Saints and is like, hey, I'd like to coach with the Cardinals next year, they're offering up pick 35. You take that and you say, thank you, sir, and you walk away. You don't try to string out this game. And I think a lot of people affiliated with the Saints, I'm not going to name names, but on the Twitter streets are finding out real quick. The longer you wait, the more your value diminishes if you're New Orleans trying to ship this guy out of town. His value has never been higher. Look at these guys who leave the coaching ranks and want to come back in. It doesn't work out so well. John Gruden was away from the game too long and he couldn't catch up. Bo, you've used the example. The Joe Gibbs experiment once upon a time in Washington, that didn't end well. If Sean wants to coach, New Orleans does not need to hamper this with what are they going to say? No, Sean, you can't coach next year. He doesn't. Right. All this BS about there's a mystery team. There's no mystery team. The 5 openings are the 5 openings, now 4. And Sean Payton is not going to Carolina, and he's not going to Denver, and he's not going to Houston. So the options are Cardinals, please and thank you. That's it. That's it, New Orleans. You want to pick or not?
To save face. They have to save face. And they did themselves a disservice by telling people who report on the Saints that what their asking price was. And then letting Sean Payton go and Colin Cowherd and say it's a mid to late first. That was a big misstep because you saw people kind of cringe. They're like, ooh, that's expensive. That's a bit too much.
$25 million in full personnel control. Right. It's just like, how about have a conversation first before you do the dog and pony show? How embarrassing is it for the Saints if he goes out there and they spew all this stuff through third parties and media mouthpieces and it doesn't work out because of what they did? Now, at the end of the day, it's inevitably what Sean wants to do. If he wants to coach again, he's going to coach again. I believe that. That's the argument we've been having since early December. But hey, New Orleans, move on. It's over. You picked Dennis Allen. He's your head coach. You retained him. You didn't fire him, right? Sean's not coming back to New Orleans. So go and get compensation. Pick 35 is about as good as you can hope for, I think, if you're New Orleans, because we talked about it, Bo, on yesterday's show. Teams look at future picks and they're devalued around. So would you rather have pick 35 this year or a 1 next year, which equates to a 2? I think you'd rather have pick 35.
Yeah, and I see all these Saints fans in the chat with this. I mean, are you really prepared for your organization to basically hold hostage the coach that brought your organization to new heights unreached, after it used to be the Aints? You used to wear bags on your heads, for God's sakes, before Drew Brees and Sean Payton and Steve Gleason rolled in and post Katrina and brought that team all this success for 16 seasons.
Show some class.
You're going to hold him hostage to get the highest draft pick. You know how bad that's going to look? And the Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints, if the Cardinals are serious on hiring Sean Payton and willing to pay what he's going to command salary-wise, if the Saints are there and they're going to be stubborn on what their asking price is, it's going to be a bad look for that organization. It's just going to be bad. And I'm not coming from somebody who covers the Cardinals on a daily basis. I'm just talking as an NFL consumer, somebody who watches the game each and every week. If they're going to play hardball because they want the highest draft pick for Sean Payton, I understand that. But to an extent, you have to kind of release. You have to give up on Payton, because if he wanted to come back, he could have come back, and that's just not happening.
We're going to get to some more of your comments here, but first I want to tell everybody about our friends at Underdog Fantasy. I wish you could pick the higher of Sean Payton and draft picks that it's going to take to get Sean Payton, but you can do damn near everything else on Underdog Fantasy. Can't wait. If Underdog Fantasy was Sean Payton next year in the fall, Bo, can you imagine the higher in catches for somebody like Trey McBride? Hell yeah. I'm pivoting off of year-long fantasy. I'm doing Underdog Fantasy, daily fantasy differently. Draft your team against 5 of your friends. We've got the conference championship games this weekend. The highest scoring squad for that night wins the cold hard cash. Draft 6 NBA players. Suns are hot. They're playing tonight. Dallas Mavericks, Cam Johnson. Check it out. No positional limits. That is it. It's so easy to get started, boy. All you got to do, go to underdogfantasy.com, download the app, sign up with promo code. You guessed it. It's PHNX. Get this. Underdog is going to match your first deposit up to $100. Again, download the app, slam that promo code PHNX. Anything up to $100, you're getting matched with that first deposit. Free monies to go and dabble with on Underdog Fantasy, Bo. Get in on the action today.
When I heard that Sean Payton was going to eat lunch with Monty Ossenfort and Michael Bidwill, I was thinking, where should they go? Four Peaks is just right down the street from the facility there in Tempe. Be the perfect place, right? Go sit down there at their H Street Brewery, get themselves a kilt lifter. Hey, this is their flagship beer. This is what got it all started, but they've got so many other different options. If you're an IPA guy, you want to go Sun Brew, you can go with the pumpkin porter still, I believe. They've got the peach ale if you want maybe something a little bit more fruity. It's up to you, and Four Peaks has something for everybody. And then they got into the menu. You start with the appetizers. You got the chicken rolls. Can't go wrong there. You can go with the garlic cheese beer bread. And then the entrees, Johnny, that's what's going to seal the deal as far as Sean Payton coming to Arizona, because he wants to get that Four Peaks food. You got the beef beer bread. You've got you get any of their burger Peaks. You can go, you can watch a game. The atmosphere is unmatched. You got the great beer and you've got the great food. Got to be 21 years or older. You can find, of course, Four Peaks pretty much anywhere in the valley, any convenience store, any grocery store. You can go buy beer there, but why not go do it at their OG location, Four Peaks Breweries.
You love to see Sean Payton in the desert. Emma, can we see that picture one more time? This is from our guy Cam Cox at Channel 12, Bo Brock, Cam Cox with the
it's 12 News.
12 News. Cam does a great job there. Bo, why weren't you camped outside the facility today with your phone trying to get this shot, right? We got people DMing us saying, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you guys, on the lookout? And I'm like, well, I don't think that that's really going to happen today. And boy, oh boy, were we wrong. People are literally camping outside to get this shot. So we want to give credit where credit's due. Cam Cox getting this photo. And again, I know that, we're excited about the development. We feel like, why on earth would they go through this process? And that was our comment yesterday when all the national media was like, there's just not a place for Sean Payton. Literally before the fucking interview happened in Arizona, like a full day interview in Arizona when you're trying to convince each other that it was a fit. And you got, with all due respect, Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano, who all this time were like, yeah, it's Vance Joseph, it's co-GMs, it's blah, 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 saying there's no place for Sean Payton. What? He's got an interview. If that's not disrespect, I don't know what it is. And again, we play this us against the world mentality here with the Valley Sports because we know what it's like to have our heart broken. We know what it's like to have expectations and then not be fulfilled. But like, again, Sean Payton has history with this franchise. He was a ball boy dating back to his time in the state of Illinois, helping out with the St. Louis Cardinals, which used to have their training camp in Illinois. He went to Eastern Illinois. He knows the Bidwill family. And again, I'm going to wind the clocks back just like I did yesterday. December 31st, New Year's Eve, Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. Sean Payton was there to watch TCU football. You're telling me he didn't connect with Michael Bidwill that day? Of course he did, off the record. And he said, go talk to everybody, vet it. We're going to get our ducks in a row here. And look, push comes to shove. Everybody else imploded, retained, hired new people. And there's Michael Bidwill with a big, fat vacancy for a head coach. You're telling me this guy's going to walk away from $25 million a year to be the head coach and CEO of this football team? I just, that to me, I love him on Fox. What do you think Fox is paying him? About what, $5 million to do a couple spots here and there? $2 million? I don't know. And he's got some money coming from New Orleans once upon a time. $25 million to come coach an NFL franchise in the quarterback-starved NFC where Daniel Jones just won a playoff game. If this guy is taking all these tours, Denver, right, Houston, Carolina, he didn't meet with Indy, he wants to coach again.
Right.
And I believe it's going to be here in Arizona.
As far as, the sun setting, the NFC it's set on that conference. As far as the quarterback position, and we could see Aaron Rodgers go to the Jets. His old OC is now the OC Nathaniel Hackett of the Jets. He once again took a job in anticipation of getting Aaron Rodgers. We'll see if he goes 0 for 2, but he can make his way to the AFC. Everybody who's looking at Tom Brady, who's is Tom Brady played his last down of football or in the NFC? That's potentially true as well. Could he go to the Las Vegas Raiders? All those teams that are going to be vying for some top quarterbacks, it's going to continue to go to the AFC. So where can you really make your mark? Where can you make a move? And where can you put yourself in the position to contend for Super Bowls? Yeah, it's going to be in the NFC. You're not going to cannibalize yourself throughout the regular season in that conference. Brad Gass of Fox 10, great behind-the-scenes cameraman, has video of that. It's not behind 1992 Toyota Tercel bumper. It's clear footage of Sean Payton and Michael Bidwill walking out and looking like they're enjoying each other's company and making their way to a maroon, it looks like Tesla or some sort of luxury electric car. It's like, this is me. This is me. You want to continue talking? You want to talk more about how much money I'm going to pay you to coach my football team potentially?
Yeah, Dennis Gardeck, we'll get his ass out of here. We don't have to worry about that. Rodney Hudson, we'll take care of his contract. Don't you worry, Sean. You get your own people in here. You want to taste.
Who's trying to woo who here? Who's
Benjamin Albright yesterday said the Cardinals needed to be wooed by Sean Payton. You can't tell me for one iota that Michael Bidwill doesn't want Sean Payton. I think Michael Bidwill, this is from the day you asked him, Bo, at the press conference. For those of you who don't know, my counterpart, my co-host to my right, asked Michael Bidwill, are you going to meet with Sean Payton? And there was a big old shit-eating grin on Michael Bidwill's face. He said, oh, we talk to everybody. That's Michael Bidwill's number one target. So I don't believe for a second that the Cardinals are, have to be courted by Sean Payton. It's vice versa, right? Cardinals want to enter the big leagues here in the NFC West. And so I think you got to make sure Sean wants to coach. And a lot of people have brought up the idea you don't want to get, Bruce Arians early in the process of him retiring. And he's 59 years old. So can you get 10 years of Sean Payton and try to win a championship? That has to be the goal. I have to get assurance that I'm going to give up draft picks and most importantly, probably even Michael Bidwill significant funds. They were paying Cliff Kingsbury, for those of you who don't know, the bare minimum in the NFC West, about $7 million. Sean Payton's going to make over 3 times as much of that based on reports. So you got to make sure he's all in.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only courting that you need. And Sean, of course, wants to make sure the Cardinals aren't the laughingstock that they have been perceived this past 2022 season.
And hopefully over that lunch with Monty Ossenfort, he was kind of given that assurance, right? That he's got a plan. And if everything that we heard from Monty Ossenfort, who I think won his press conference, which, a lot of people do, and actions are louder than words as far as going from the press conference and putting these things into motion as the general manager and kind of creating a new culture and identity for the Arizona Cardinals. But you have to just believe that he's got something in place where he's gone through the organization, he's done his homework as far as the Cardinals go, and Ossenfort has, and then now he's got a plan in place in the direction he wants to go with it, as far as scouting and as far as how he's going to attack free agency and how he's going to utilize some of the players that are perceived as assets around the league. Maybe a DeAndre Hopkins, how he can create more assets out of it to help expedite this rebuild, because you also have to believe that Sean Payton doesn't want to come out of his cushy job with Fox, return to the sidelines, and go 6-11 next season. He wants to be able to be given a talented roster that can hit the ground running in his return to coaching.
Han Sagan with the $4.99 super chat. First of all, great name, Han. The longer this goes, the cheaper the draft compensation for Peyton gets. Spot on. The Saints have zero leverage. That's why they're trying to drum up with the national media that there's a mystery team. There's not a mystery team. Who's fired their coach, on a whim in February? Like everybody's had their end of the year meetings. Nobody is just ready to jump into the coaching scene, right? And they have to be ensured that they would have Sean Payton. That's a load of hot garbage. Everybody's moved on from Sean Payton, but one team, and it's the team with the bird on the helmet that plays in the desert. So again, if they're going to get compensation and if they're smart, they will work amicably with Michael Bidwill and Monty Ossenfort to send them picks in an attempt to save face. It's not Michael Bidwill's fault that New Orleans was running off at the mouth with Mickey Loomis saying we want multiple ones, and they look dumb as a result. That's your problem. That's not our problem. That's not Sean Payton's problem. If Sean Payton wants to coach here and New Orleans is like, well, we said publicly we had to have 2 ones. Okay, how about nothing? And then you look like a dipshit because your head coach wants to coach again and you're holding him hostage. The coach that transformed you at the height of Katrina and you guys had bags over your heads. Like, get real. You haven't played this well. I think New Orleans comes out of this looking very skeptical because unlike the Cardinals, when Bruce Arians said, I'm going to get back into coaching, what did Michael Bidwill do? And they could take a point of reference from this. He said, go to Tampa. Best of luck to you. We love you, Bruce. 5th or 6th round pick.
Right.
That, to me, that's a crock of shit. If Mickey Loomis and company are like trying to hold the
Mickey
Cardinals
Loomis
hostage.
back to the chat for a second straight day.
Mickey,
he's saying,
get it together, Mickey.
He's got his caps lock on. He's saying, bring on the picks. But it's like, are Saints fans going to be satisfied? Are they going to rather watch Sean Payton on Fox next season and then get maybe a 6th in the 2024 offseason for Sean Payton when he inevitably takes the Dallas Cowboys or the Chargers job after those coaching staffs fall flat again? Or do they want to? I mean, you can actually do something, and it's not going to be a lottery ticket with a 3rd round pick. This is a team that continues to be in cap space hell. You need young, controllable talent. And if it's not going to be a 1st round pick, you'll take what you can get. Otherwise, you're just sitting there and you're left, you're SOL. You didn't get anything for an asset that wasn't even an asset when he first, initially kind of out of nowhere retired on the Saints last offseason.
What happens if Justin Herbert has an injury next year? God forbid. What happens if Sean McVay continues to coach and they gut the roster and they start over and McVay's rejuvenated and they opt to move off of Matthew Stafford? What happens if Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn, they have another good season? Like, extenuating circumstances happen all the time, right? And you can't bank on, as Bo just said, these jobs that you love opening up year after year. The Spanos family does not want to pay Sean Payton $25 million a year. The Spanos family is not having a photo like this done with Sean Payton. People who are in the know that know that family, they are cheap as hell. They fired Marty Schottenheimer. They have never paid a big-time coach in their life. The only way I could see, and I don't think Sean Payton wants to work for Jerry Jones. There's articles coming out. They've got a Jerry Jones control problem. I'm sorry. Sean Payton wants control. He will get that from Michael Bidwill. The only, I would argue that the only way that Sean Payton would have left, I think, to one of these jobs, if the Rams had opened up and they'd given him full control and Les Snead kind of, kneeled and said, you do what you want to do. Everything else, though, it's like add up the pieces here. There's not going to be a perfect spot for you next year, Saints and Sean Payton. This is as good as it's going to get. I will preach that till the cows come home. He wanted to stay on the West Coast. Check. You can avoid the quarterback gauntlet of the AFC. Check. You've got a young franchise quarterback in the making. Check, albeit off an injury. You're not in cap space hell. You have your draft picks, right? You're in a division with Brock Purdy and Geno Smith and Matthew Stafford hanging on by a thread. I mean, to me, it's just like, what more? There's not a perfect situation, Saints and Sean. What more do you want? And I think Sean is realizing that right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he realized it. He's a smart guy. I'm sure he realized it way before, the people that were saying this thing was dead, at this point last week. There was no interview on the docket, and they had requested it. Oh, what's that mean? The Denver Broncos were the front runners. They've got the ownership stability that the Arizona Cardinals don't have. It really is crazy to kind of see how this thing is completely unfolded, and the Arizona Cardinals are in the driver's seat once again for Sean Payton's services. Now, when they said that there was this meeting between Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos in Los Angeles, they said it lasted a couple hours. I mean, what we're seeing here and what went down today at their team facility.
This is intimate. This is
team
intimate.
Facility. I mean, this wasn't, hey, let's have a neutral spot here in
Let's
Los
have
Angeles.
A Zoom. Let's do a quick Zoom over Microsoft Teams, or let's
now,
do a
I don't know how long
session.
it lasted in Charlotte, but it never seemed like the Carolina Panthers were a legit contender from the get-go. One, because, part of the criteria reported for Sean Payton was he wanted to be close to Los Angeles. And also they're in the NFC South, the same division as the New Orleans Saints. But I mean, what's next here in your opinion? What has to happen next?
Here's, I think, the only concerning part, if you're a Cardinal fan, that no one outside of Josina Anderson, friend of the program, we love Josina. We saw her at the Combine last year. We're going to see her this year. No one's running with this. No one's tweeting out these photos outside of local media, God love them, of Sean Payton and Michael Bidwill. Is that people trying to scramble and backtrack and cover their tracks? The same people who said this wasn't legitimate? Maybe. Or maybe this is all it was ever going to be. I have a problem believing that. Then why even have the interview to begin with? But Dan Quinn's out now. Dan Quinn's not going to be the coach of this team. It's going to be Brian Flores or it's going to be Sean Payton. And Brian Flores was not having in-depth 12 probably plus hours of face-to-face time with the owner. He's probably meeting a little bit with Michael, a little bit with Monty, and going about his day. We don't even know if that was here in Arizona. We don't know anything about the Brian Flores interview.
Right.
We know Sean Payton came to the desert to spend the entirety of the day with Michael Bidwill and Monty Ossenford and everybody who's involved with the inner circle of the Arizona Cardinals. And then he left the facility with Michael Bidwill in his vehicle, Michael's personal vehicle, to drive God knows wherever. Please, God, let it be his home for some scotch and some fat check writing, right? But I feel like right now we're just in a period of, okay, when is everybody else going to catch up here? Or are we going to have egg on our face saying, well, this was all for nothing? I just can't. It's like yesterday trying to talk through the fact that, like, he still had his interview and people were punting on Sean Payton not being the coach or coaching in the NFL. He has no options. Well, why even have this interview then?
They don't seem like either party, Michael Bidwill, the Arizona Cardinals' new front office with GM Monty Ossenfort, Dave Sears, and Sean Payton, have an appetite for just to throw optics off, to just have this meeting to oblige the other persons want to meet with them, right? Sean Payton doesn't want to just go waste some time here in the desert, and Michael Bidwill doesn't want to throw away an entire day of his coaching search just to be cordial. I mean, it seems like if they're serious enough to have the interview today, that there was some major conversations about the future of this franchise and what it would look like with Sean Payton in it. So then what comes next? The serious, legitimate conversation about what the compensation would look like as far as salary goes and then Monty figuring it out on the back end as far as what it would cost from the Saints to the Saints.
We've got a tweet from Sean Payton. I don't want to call it dunking, but let's cue it up here over Mark Mask's tweet.
Okay.
Did he do this for Michael Bidwill's car? Sean Payton clapping back at Mark, saying zero truth to this in relation that the power struggle that would have happened in Denver. We had a great visit, and the Broncos ownership was fantastic. Well, thanks for putting that out there, Sean, as he's meeting with Michael Bidwill, hopefully finalizing his contract to become the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Why do you put that out? You put that out so basically maybe there's some, I don't know, leverage that multiple teams are in on you, but everybody knows, like, the Broncos have moved on. They are not hiring Sean Payton. Benjamin Albright, friend of the show, says that's dead. It's been dead, and everybody else is catching up. They want DeMeco Ryans. They are not hiring Sean Payton. So Sean's doing a little damage control there. But again, curious timing as he's with Michael Bidwill putting that tweet out, Bo.
He's probably just like, hey, Mike, I'm going to stir some shit up. Let's watch this. Actually, sync my phone to your Bluetooth. We'll just, I'll just voice to text it here on your Lucid luxury vehicle here. Anyway, so do you just playing devil's advocate? Because
don't do that. I don't want to do that.
I know. I don't want to poop on your parade here, but as far as, because we've been here before, right? I mean, somebody tweeted me the picture.
No, this is not the same thing. Don't even say what you're gonna say, because it's not the
Peyton Manning, Sean Payton, Peyton Manning, Sean Payton Manning.
That's cute. That's cute.
I mean, what you have? It's happened before. We're a snake bitten franchise. Tell me why it's not the same.
You got the equivalent. You got the equivalent of Vance Joseph being hired and Kevin Cobb being traded for. It's not the same because Peyton Manning was early in that interview cycle. Peyton Manning had a bunch of teams on the back end. Everybody wanted Peyton. People didn't have other options. It was Peyton or bust, right? They had John Elway in their back pocket to court Peyton Manning. The Cardinals, as much as I think you respected Ken Wisenhunt for taking the Cardinals to the Super Bowl, they were just kind of thrown into the mix. I think they finished second or third.
Did he immediately text his ex after going on a date with the Arizona Cardinals? Did he get out of Michael Bidwill's car and then get on the plane and immediately text the Broncos, like, just flirty with them?
Man, listen, I think, what is Sean at his hotel? Is he at the airport? I would think Sean's going to spend another night here. If I had to guess, I don't have any sources with this. Why wouldn't Sean spend another night? It's close enough. Catch a day flight to Los Angeles tomorrow. This is not the same thing. Everybody wants to compare this to Kevin Durant. The Nets didn't want to trade Kevin Durant. The Saints, it's in their best interest, they know this, to trade Sean Payton. Sean Payton wants to coach, presumably. Sean Payton's options are the Cardinals or bust right now. That's why we're all connecting these dots, and we've got 700 plus people. God bless all of you from the football gods. Like this video, please. That right now, there's momentum. I don't want to say there's momentum toward a deal, but there's momentum. There's momentum for all you to check out Chi-Town Cornhole as the weather hopefully starts to heat up here in the Valley. Please, please, please check out Chi-Town Custom Cornholes, who have been supplying premium cornhole sets across the country and to military bases, deployments throughout the world since 2007. They are fantastic. Love them. Check them out. Signature box style design that can be digitally printed. It can be covered in vinyl. It can be stained. It can be painted. Our cornhole boards with Chi-Town Cornholes are built with in-drink holders. It's fantastic. I've never seen anything like it. They drop down in the back. They've got LED lights that show up. Exteriors, they just do cornhole or bags, if you will, differently. They're veteran-owned and operated. If you're a veteran, by the way, or on active duty, ask you a 10% discount. It's fantastic. They are first class. They ship anywhere. Custom designs, corporate designs, backyard barbecues, Super Bowl parties, whatever you want to do. Check them out, ChiTownCornhole.com. Check them out on Instagram Instagram, Chi-Town Custom Cornhole Boards.com, or their website. Great stuff. I can't wait to pick up one. Here pretty soon.
Craig suggesting Michael Bidwill take Sean Payton into Scottsdale, show him around Old Town, nice restaurants down there. Or he could probably enhance his experience here in Arizona with Arizona's Cannabis Kitchen. We're talking about our friends over at OG's Brands. OG's can enhance anything that you're doing with their variety of cannabis gummy products. Blackberries and cream, their tropical flavors, watermelon, you've got the raspberry orange creamsicle. They've got a huge slate of just different menu gummies that you can select from. You got to check them all out. OGsBrands.com. That's OGsBrands.com. They've got the brand new strawberries and cream. It's hitting shelves soon. And as soon as you can find them at your local dispensary, you're going to want to get your hands on them. Got to be 21 years or older. But the new strawberries and cream, let me just tell you this, the CBD to THC ratio, it's unbelievable. It's that happy balance that you want. Looking for something else, maybe something to help you get to sleep at night. I know a lot of people that struggle with getting to sleep. They've got the sleep time gummy. It's aquaberry flavor. You can check that out as well. And all the products at ogsbrands.com and as well. Follow them on Instagram at ogsbrands.
All right, let's do some guessing here as to what the next 24 hours would look like. Because I think dominoes are starting to fall. It feels like DeMeco Ryans is going to be either in Houston or he's going to be in Denver. We talked about, Bo, the possibility of Dan Quinn being an option for Indy. Ownership wants Jeff Saturday. That feels like a move that could get done relatively quickly now. Do you think the Cardinals get to Monday without a new head coach, in your opinion?
No, because I think it has been whittled down to this is a two-person race, right? And it comes down to, do they want to pay the price for Sean Payton? And if they don't, then they pivot to Brian Flores, the former Miami Dolphins head coach, who I continue to see great things said about him during his 1 year, his lone season in Pittsburgh. Ike Taylor, who used to play some major downs for that Pittsburgh team back in his heyday on that defense, said that he was hearing that Sean Payton was not only highly regarded on the defensive side of the football, where he helped turn one of the worst rush defenses in the league from 2021 into a top 10 group, 9th overall in 2022. He was instrumental in that, but is also helping Kenny Pickett, who said himself, Brian Flores, Coach Flo, was helping him with the 2-minute drill and everything that you wanted to hear coming off his Miami Dolphins tenure, which went completely south, like how he would progress and how he would improve, you're hearing come out of Pittsburgh. I mean, I've said it before. I think that Brian Flores, not just going back to New England with his tail between his legs after being the Dolphins coach for 3 years and how things didn't work out there, and just getting back on Belichick's staff would have been the worst thing for him. And him to go work for another consistently successful coach in Mike Tomlin was genius.
You brought up an interesting proposition. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but Brian Flores is interviewing for defensive coordinator positions right now. I think he's dabbling in Miami, a couple different spots, maybe Minnesota. Possibility Sean Payton comes on as your head coach. Brian Flores coordinates your defense. I mean, and we don't want to get too spoiled here, too far ahead of ourselves. And I think Cardinal fans, we don't want to set ourselves up for disappointment if this doesn't work out. And Brian Flores is the next head coach of this team, because I think there's a lot to get excited about and get behind, because if you don't get Sean Payton, no one else is getting Sean Payton. And I think that would have been a tough pill to swallow for this fan base to finish second again. So definitively Sean Payton doesn't want to coach this year. If you don't want to coach the Cardinals, and after everything we've seen, he doesn't want to coach this year. So you can say, okay, let's get somebody who does want to coach this, won 10 games, let's win 9 games. That is somebody who we feel like is on the upward trajectory. We both liked him more than Dan Quinn. Learning in his tutelage under Mike Tomlin. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Brian Flores and the immense respect that Monty Ossenford, the new GM of the Cardinals, has, calling him, Bo, to you, a special person.
Wouldn't you say that if Sean Payton is back for Fox, that it was Michael Bidwill didn't want to have to pay $20 to $25 million a year?
No, I think there's a possibility that Sean Payton probably,
he's going to say thanks, but no thanks to $20 to $25 million a year.
No, because his heart's probably. Why would you meet with Sean knowing that number is real and thinking that you could negotiate it down to $10 million? Like, I don't think Michael Bidwill, who paid Kyler Murray a premium when everybody said he wouldn't do it, who has a private jet, who has a team jet, right? He's got disposable income. Why would he do that? He talks to people around the league. He's been talking to other GMs. He said that to you at the press conference. I'm talking to everybody. He knows what the asking price is. He has talked to the Saints and understands what they perceive as the compensation, and that's how the initial interview was set up, right? So I think that I would be very disappointed after Michael Bidwill is pushing all the right buttons to start this free agency period. Goodbye, Cliff. Goodbye, Keim. Hiring 2 extremely intelligent external people to run your personnel department, and then saying, oh, Sean, I'm going to give you $7 million or $10 million or $15 million. No, like, we know what the price tag is. And you never, ever disparage somebody for paying a premium for a premium, right? It's like a famous Jerry Jones saying where he's like, well, anytime I've paid a bargain for something, that's what I've ended up getting, a bargain, but it's not what I had hoped. I want to pay a premium for a premium.
Right.
You think about this team, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole here, could not sell out home games. Their opposing fans are taking over State Farm Stadium. You have one win at home over the last 18 months. Well, who's going to change that? One person, presumably in Sean Payton. That's worth its weight in gold for an owner that wants to see the value of his team rise up. $4, $5, $6, $7 billion. It's a flash in the pan to pay Sean Payton $20 million, $25 million if it means your franchise is going up by the hundreds of millions to billions.
Well, I mean, and very rarely do proven commodities, especially at the head coaching ranks, become available when you have a vacancy, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen, especially in a cap league in the NFL. Like when you just look at the free agent market, very rarely do you find the elite players hit the open market, because if they're worth anything, teams are doing everything in their control to hold on to those guys. So the fact that he's available and that you're just going to have to pay the hefty price tag on that, and coming off a 4-13 season after going back-to-back times, hiring coaches who are first-year coaches, or three times, right? Back to, because Bruce Arians was a coordinator, but he also got some experience filling in for Chuck Pagano as he battled cancer, but he was more of a proven commodity. But this guy is a proven commodity in the sense that he's a culture changer, because we talked so many times about what he was able to do there in New Orleans and the organization, how it was going nowhere fast for so long. I mean, that these opportunities don't come along that often. And when you look at the history of the Arizona Cardinals, this is the one time where they can pivot from where they've gone in these coaching searches before, just going after these coordinators where you're like, I like him a lot. It's like, well, you might like him, but this guy's proven right here. This guy's proven, and you can bring him in tomorrow if you wanted to.
It's like everybody's saying the Cardinals need to go out and find the next Sean Payton. I mean, good luck with that. They've been trying to do that for 30 years. We've been following this team our entire lives, right? If it was that easy, everybody would go and do it. Their hiring process has not been ideal, right? They've been passed over. They have a golden opportunity to change their stars, change their franchise. I want to get to some of these comments here. I believe we've got a super chat that we got to get to here, if I can pull it up on my end. Jason Krell, thank you so much, my man. $1.99 super chat. Is Payton officially hired yet or no? He is not. But that brings up an interesting kind of dynamic, Bo. What comes first? Is it a report that Sean Payton and the Arizona Cardinals have agreed on a contract, and now they're entering into negotiations with the Saints? Or do you just get the announcement of Sean Payton's been traded to the Arizona Cardinals? What do you think would come first?
I think that we'll get kind of some insight on what went down today beyond what we've seen, the great reporting from Kyle Odegaard and his sources there from CompareBet. We're going to hear, how things went. Sean Payton had a fantastic couple-hour interview with Cardinals ownership and new GM Monty Austinfort, and here's what we're expecting to come next. And then I think you get the report that they're going to hire him, and then you'll figure out the compensation after that.
Yeah. Another super chat here from Illa Dre. Thank you so much. $1.99. Dolphins management sabotage Flores. Good coach. 100% agree. We've been banging that drum for 4 weeks now. We're big fans of Brian Flores on this podcast and what I think he'd be able to do with the Arizona Cardinals should he be the next head coach. And we'll come here and we'll be excited if he is the next head coach. But he's not Sean Payton. And it would be ignorant for us to sit up here and say Brian Flores is Sean Payton. But you don't want to have a Sean Payton that doesn't want to come here, that's not all in on coaching football next year, because that's how you end up overpaying a guy with draft picks and compensation financially, and then him quitting after 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Like the Cardinals they're not the Saints, of course, when he took it over, but they're a franchise that has never won a Super Bowl. That's not breaking news here. This is not going to be a plug and play deal. But I've contended, Bo, it means more going to franchises and changing cultures and winning. It's like the Theo Epstein effect. Go to the Red Sox, win a championship. Go to Chicago, win a championship. That means more than stacking up trophies for these franchises that have, the Hunt family and the, Steelers and the Packers once upon a time, the Patriots. Like the Cardinals historically have not been operated and well run. But to overcome that, and to see now with Michael Bidwill, who's got a lot of foresight into what he wants to do, he just doesn't know how to do it right. We've always contended he wants to win. He just needs good football people to show him how to win.
Yeah. A week from yesterday, you've got going to have the anniversary of the Arizona Cardinals offense leaving the field with a lead in the Super Bowl. And you're like, Michael Bidwill has been chasing to get back to that moment and that opportunity for so long. And the guy that possesses the ability to get you back there was in your facility today. You have to believe that with Payton, because wasn't it the next year? It was his Saints team beating the Colts in the Super Bowl and hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. So, it's like you're searching for the next one, and that's great. That's admirable. But at the same time, when you got somebody right there within your grasp and how things have kind of played out, this coaching carousel, I think it just would not be smart for Michael Bidwill and this team to let him get away.
If it's up to them. And again,
if it's up to them, that's what I was asking you. I mean, whose court is the ball in at this point? Is it
I think it's in Sean's. It's always been in Sean's court. Sean holds all the cards in this scenario. The Cardinals, Michael Bidwill knows his investment in Kyler Murray, you're going to get the most out of it with Sean Payton, right? It's like we always talked about was his relationship with Cliff Kingsbury. It's like this investment does not make sense for Kyler Murray when you're paying him $230 million. You're going to get the most, whatever it is, out of Kyler Murray, presumably with this guy, with this man. And I have no doubt that he's number one on their board. But is Sean Payton ready to come back into coaching? We don't know. All this stuff about coming back to Fox, it certainly seemed telegraphed. It certainly seemed telegraphed that he didn't want to go through the ringer of coaching in 2023. And he said all this stuff on Fox, like 70% I come back here. I don't know if that just seems very telegraphed to me, that everything has been quiet leading up to today. And now we get word that he's been with the ownership, with facility all day. And he could be back tomorrow. We don't know. We don't know if he's left the state of Arizona. We don't know if this is going to continue into tomorrow. This is a very touch and go 12 hours for this franchise and could be the most monumental signing, I would say, in the history of Arizona Cardinal football. I think it would be the biggest acquisition that they've ever made from a personnel standpoint. With all due respect to the late Denny Green and Buddy Ryan, you get Sean Payton.
Emmett Smith.
But I mean, Denny Green had a good record in Minnesota, and a lot of people thought he would turn the franchise around.
But he was also fired, wasn't he?
Yeah. But I mean, you get Sean Payton. It's unprecedented for this franchise. Unprecedented.
But Denny Green was an elite evaluator of talent, and he was not afraid to push those buttons to make sure he got guys in here. I just wanted to be your conscience, guys, and just make sure that everybody knows that, like, listen, the biggest gripe about the Cardinals is that they wouldn't spend money or they wouldn't get these big guys in here to try and really fish in the big pool, right? And they have. They've interviewed everybody that you've wanted them to interview. Everybody had a shot at this. So whether they get Sean Payton or not, I don't think it really matters. I think you can feel good about your franchise and the direction that they're going because they want to get good people in here. So if Brian Flores ends up being the guy, for whatever the reason is, I'm okay with that. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, Bidwill. We got a Michael Bidwill impersonator, I think, in the chat too. Hold on to your seats, Red Sea. Is that verified? Can we verify if that's the Cardinals owner or not? No, but Saul's exactly right. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Cardinals fans can be kind of comfortable with the fact that it's come down to these two candidates. And I know Brian Flores is a little polarizing to part of the fan base, but if you really do your homework and you see why things went the way they did in Miami and kind of the rough hand he was dealt and how he's moved on since then and going to Pittsburgh and learning from Tomlin and worked on his own, his own resume and his own ability to coach up players and be leader of men. You have to like where he's coming from. So just the idea that the Arizona Cardinals have talked to everybody and now they're sitting in a prime position to get one of the two guys that I think, you had on your list a long time ago. And I think many of the Cardinals fans, they had these two guys near the top of their list.
I want to get to a comment here from Jose saying, we're not going to spend money reckless. Cardinals are on a budget. Maybe the old Cardinals, because everything I heard 12 hours before Cliff Kingsbury was fired. Well, Cliff's got his press conference tomorrow. Cliff's coming back. Steve Keim will be around. They just got signed. They're coming back, right? They're going to hire Vance Joseph and do a dual GM so they don't have to eat these contracts and pay new people. I mean, you can think about whatever you want about the Arizona Cardinals. but do not ignore Michael Bidwill, what he's done over the course of the last 2 to 3 weeks. And we've gotten reports from people we trust that are in the know saying Michael Bidwill has never been more close to the vest, close to the chest with anything he's done this offseason. He has gotten rid of a bunch of people in his inner circle. He has reevaluated everything. You saw him on Hard Knocks. That was a desperate man. Desperate times call for desperate measures. He probably knew he was going to fire Cliff Kingsbury in November, but he took his time. He's been methodical. This is if he pulls this off, this is a methodical process that we all need to commend Michael Bidwill for, because I do think this is telegraphed. You can't tell me it's not telegraphed. To get to this point, the end of the line, when the coaches are starting to be hired and you're the last people at the table with the Super Bowl winning head coach, and all their leverage in New Orleans is gone, mystery team garbage, Carolina, Denver. We got our guy Benjamin Albright basically saying that Sean Payton leaked that out about Denver and then doing a little bit of damage control, right? Like Sean Payton wasn't impressed with the ownership for Denver. And it looks sure as hell looks like he was impressed with what Michael Bidwill had to say today, walking hand in hand basically to his vehicle, driving out of the
not hand in hand. They were not frolicking through the parking lot.
Basically hand
like
in hand, arm to arm. Yeah, it's how Bo and I walk into the facility.
We're the two best friends. No, that did not happen, but they do look pretty chummy. But I mean, and it doesn't feel like it's a leverage play. And it doesn't seem like these two sides are in the business of just exchanging pleasantries,
wasting time
with each other. It doesn't.
Are you wasting Michael Bidwill's time? Michael Bidwill needs a head coach.
Yeah, Sean. They're in the thick of a coaching search. Michael Bidwill's there. Michael Bidwill was there. Think about where Broncos ownership was when he wanted that second interview. Yeah, he's in a deer stand.
On a hunting trip, big buck hunting, right?
Yeah. Put some more deer urine on you so we can attract more deers. We need to get some more 6 points out here so I can be that whitetail.
The Cardinals.
We need a head coach, pal.
Hey, Sean, can you come in tomorrow? We'd like to hire you. We'd like to get this going. The Senior Bowl's next week, Sean. Can you come out? Can we get this process going? 2 things. Dan Quinn out of the running, telegraphed. The Cardinals have not requested any additional interviews. This is it after today. Nothing left on the schedule, right? Now you could be saying, well, they're going to wait out. They're going to start new conversations with people from after the conference championship game. You really think that? You really think they're going to talk to Shane Steichen, who wet the bed from his Panther interview? You think they're going to talk to John Gannon? Like they never met with John Gannon. They didn't meet with DeMeco Ryans. They could have prioritized them. You think they're going to meet with these people now, 3 weeks into this process? They're on second interviews this week. These are their candidates: Quinn, Flores, Payton. And this is it. This is the end of the line. Guys are getting hired because guys are going to start putting staffs together. Frank Reich's going to go out there. I need an OC. I need a DC. We got to get going here. Senior Bowl's next week. We got to get scouting. Like, we're not starting fresh next week with, oh, yeah, the Cardinals are going to do this, and they're going to talk to Mike Kafka. Awesome. And they're going to bring in X, Y, and Z. This is it. Right. This is it. That's why if you're a Cardinal fan, you have to be somewhat cautiously optimistic, because there's nothing left on the schedule for either one of these guys. Bidwill and Sean can look eye to eye and say, this is the end of the line, brother. What do you want to do?
You want to come back? You want to coach? This is the place you can come coach. I'll write the check. I'll put you in a position. How much do you think that they talked about Kyler Murray today? Do you think he was a big topic conversation?
I think to some degree. But again, like, Sean can put on tape and see Kyler Murray can play football. And I think Sean's going to nobody can tell Sean about Kyler.
You know, there's more to it as far as...
No one can tell Sean about Kyler more than Kyler. And I think, with all due respect to Kyler, this decision's bigger than Kyler. I think this decision is about the inner workings of the franchise, right? How he's going to get along with Monty Ossenfort, because he's not reporting to Kyler. Cliff Kingsbury may have reported to Kyler Murray. Sean Payton does not. Sean Payton's going to report with hand-in-hand Monty Ossenfort to Michael Bidwill. And those three are going to be lockstep. And Kyler Murray, with all due respect, has to get on board. If you can't get on board with Sean Payton, Kyler, I don't know what I can do for you.
Right. So I think that's he's the most inescapable coach for whatever, if things don't work out at this point, there's 2 coaches that had you in their best interest. If it doesn't work out, look in the mirror at that point. But I think that he was a larger part of the conversation just because of what Michael Bidwill and the Cardinals organization has invested in Kyler Murray and how much they want to get back on track his game, and Sean Payton, how he can be the guy to do that, how he can usher Kyler back to the perennial Pro Bowl status track.
We're on Payton Watch. This podcast, if you've been following us, have been on Payton Watch since late October. A producer, Emma Extraordinaire, made that graphic around Halloween. And who is the last coach standing? Presumably, it's Sean Payton. Who is the first podcast tooting our own horn to talk about Sean Payton with Kyler Murray in this franchise? It was the PHNX Cardinals Podcast. Check us out. Go PHNX.com. Become a diehard. You will not be sorry that you did. You can cop a free hat, a free t-shirt. Check out the PHNX beat reporter, Howard Balzer. For those of you who don't know, Howard broke the story about the interview being scheduled for today, about the fact that Sean Payton had soured on the Broncos, had postponed that interview. That was Howard Balzer. Check him out. Articles, 90% are free at gophnx.com. Slam that promo code Howard. Bo, we are on Sean Payton Watch. We will do emergency podcasts, emergency shows, whenever news goes down, my friend.
I will immediately leave my family and jump in front of a hot mic and a camera and make sure that we're talking about whatever news may break as far as Sean Payton. Before we get out of here, one last look from the bumper of a Taurus of Michael Bidwill and Sean Payton walking out to his luxury electric vehicle there to continue their conversation together. Isn't that beautiful in the Arizona sunshine? Aren't we glad that that we got the temperatures up for Sean Payton's arrival? Our payday, Johnny. It happened, and it's been glorious all day long. Thanks for everybody that's joined us in the chat. Everybody's been crushing it today. Even the burner accounts of Ian Rappaport I saw there, Mikey Loomis, Michael Bidwill, all those fraudulent accounts. It was still fun. It's fun in here every day. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube and all our social media channels as well for any of the breaking news. Make sure you're following Johnny on Twitter at Johnny Venerable. Follow me, Bo Brock, at Bo Brock. Of course, subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star. Leave us a 5-star on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. More news tomorrow or in between then from PHNX Cardinals. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Talk to you soon.